The best players can play versus any counter, and Yatoro has made impossible drafts look easy over and over again. This analysis of his TB versus LGD in the TI upper bracket finals will make you understand why Yatoro is the greatest player of all time. Team Spirit picked Terrorblade in the second phase after seeing Ancient Apparition, Grimstroke, and CK in the enemy team. Grimstroke can be annoying to deal with as a Terrorblade because he can make an illusion out of TB and kill his team. Grimstroke's Inkswell can be used as a combo with another hero, which can be used to burst down the TB since he is a low HP hero in the initial stages of the game. A Strength is his ult, and Ice Vortex. There aren't a lot of carries that can ignore A's ultimate. Terrorblade is one of those which can. Terrorblade can use Sunder even while under the effect of A ultimate. CK deals physical damage. TB is a high armor hero that likes to buy Butterfly, so it can be decent against CK, but to be honest, it depends upon who is ahead. If CK is ahead, he will always beat Terrorblade. LGD followed up by picking Tinker and Centaur as their next two picks. Centaur plus Grimstroke lane is strong against Terrorblade because they can keep on killing the TB with Inkswell and Magical Burst from Centaur if he's out of position. Another thing is that when TB pops Metamorphosis, Centaur can use Stampede to escape. TB is kind of impossible to play against a Tinker. Tinker doesn't let TB take towers and has the damage to burst him down at any stage of the game. Combine Tinker's rockets with A's Vortex and laser with Grimstroke's ultimate, it's too much damage for the TB to deal with, making it a hard game for Yatoro. In the laning phase, Yatoro ends up dying twice to the Grim plus Centaur combo. His first death wasn't exactly his fault as Miposhka's pull got Yatoro double waved under the tower, which allowed Centaur and Grim to dive and kill him. He dies again 2 minutes later as he gets caught out of position in front of the Radiant Tower. In this case, he miscalculated the damage output from Grim plus Centaur and ends up dying. This basically tells you how strong of a lane Centaur plus Grim is. After this point, Centaur is around 800 gold ahead of Yatoro. Yatoro is only level 4 and has only 1 point in his illusion, so he can't exactly go to the jungle at this point. He buys a raindrop so that he can sustain himself enough to stay in lane till he gets a few levels. From this point onwards, his game plan for the lane is to farm side camps near the lane and wait for the wave to push into his tower. Once the wave pushes into his tower, he uses his illusions and the main hero to clear it out. Since Yatoro knows that he can't use meta to do damage to towers or engage in fights, he uses it to push the Centaur away such that he gets to have more farm without being contested. He keeps on farming the side camps and uses his illusions to take the unsafe farm and push out the lane and farms towards his Midas. He ends up at 4.2k net worth at minute 10 regardless of the bad start. Usually on TB, your first item is either a Manta style or a Dragonlance, but Yatoro decides to go neither and get a Midas instead. Why does he buy a Midas on TB? Yatoro understands that his hero is countered and requires a BKB before he can be useful, but buying a BKB before having damage items is useless, so he needs a few items before getting the BKB. Dragonlance or Manta style are usually items that will allow you to push towers and take fights as a Terrorblade in the early game. If you look at LGD's lineup, if Yatoro tries to join a fight or hit a tower, he will instantly get blown away, so that is a no-go. Another big factor behind buying a Midas is Tinker. Tinker is a hero that naturally delays the game and isn't a playmaker that can close out the map. Buying a Midas in this case means that Yatoro can play for the mid to late game. His game plan is to not engage in fights at all until he has the item that he needs. He will mostly be using his illusions to clear waves, which will put him behind in the experience department, but Midas solves that problem as well. From this point onwards, Yatoro's game plan is to dodge the enemy and avoid taking fights with his team. He farms the jungle and sends his illusions to push out and farm the lanes. He keeps doing this for the next 10 minutes and ends up at around 11k net worth around the 20th minute mark. After buying Midas, Yatoro skips Dragonlance, Manta and goes for the Sage and Yasha instead. Dragonlance is an item which can be useful to avoid being kited as a TB and gives you decent stats. In this case, LGD's lineup isn't going to run away from Yatoro but will always jump him instead, so having Dragonlance isn't as useful. Manta gives TB decent stats and extra illusions. LGD's lineup can kill illusions instantly, so the illusion factor isn't useful. Sage and Yasha provides TB with stats and Stratus resistance, all of which are useful against LGD's lineup. Yatoro needs to survive the initial initiation from LGD. The stat resistance and stats from the SNY will help with that. Not to mention, SNY only costs 4100 gold, whereas buying both Dragonlance and Manta will cost 6500 gold, so it is cost efficient as well. After SNY, Yatoro opts for the butterfly instead of buying a BKB that will allow him to fight. When you think about it, if Yatoro buys a BKB with SNY, he will be lacking in the damage department as both these items are kind of defensive. Other than that, BKB will only help against 50% of the magical burst of LGD. It will not help against the burst damage from the CK. In this case, he needs something to protect him from the CK, so buying the butterfly will help him with that whilst also solving the damage issues. But this does not mean he can fight with this butterfly. In this fight without BKB, he gets instantly blown away, as you can see here. Another interesting thing Yatoro did was taking Dandelion Amulet as his tier 3 item. This item provides him with movement speed, which scales better with the 12% increase from the SNY, and also provides with passive magical block. BKB will only block 50% of the magical damage, not all of it, so having the amulet is extremely useful. After getting his BKB, Yatoro starts playing aggressively on the map in comparison to playing passively on his side before. He farms the enemy side of the map because he knows that if LGD goes on him, he will bait them in and can turn the fight with his BKB. After getting his BKB, Yatoro opts for Silver Edge as his damage item. Silver Edge is usually bought for mobility and to break the enemy heroes. In this case, Centaur can be broken, but that's not the reason behind him buying Silver Edge. There are multiple benefits of Silver Edge in this game. If you look at Spirit's lineup, none of these heroes like to show first. They want to play out of vision. In this case, Yatoro has to take up the role of showing first and getting information for his team. Silver Edge allows him to play aggressively on the map whilst giving vision and information to his team, who can take advantage of that. Yatoro's main plan is to take out the Tinker, and Silver Edge can be used to catch the Tinker. Other than that, Grimstroll will eventually buy Aghanims and create a dark portrait of the Terrorblade. Since Yatoro bought a butterfly, the illusion will be hard to kill because of evasion. Silver Edge gives you True Strike on the first attack, which can be used to kill the illusion instantly. After this, Yatoro takes the Tormentor and gets the Shard, which plays an insane role in turning this game, which we will see now. Shortly after, Yatoro walks up to scout near the Radiant Secret Shop, playing the role of the vision provider for his team. He finds an opportunity to kill the Ancient Apparition, but ends up getting Yuled. LGD instantly turns towards him and starts hitting him, but Yatoro is too fast for them. He uses Sunder to live and then kites LGD towards his side of the map, where eventually his team joins up and lands a perfect combination of spells, which ends up as a good fight for Spirit as CK dies. Notice during his entire combat, Yatoro did not use Metamorphosis. Seems strange, right? Here's the thing, if Yatoro popped meta, he would have died. You must be wondering why. Terrorblade's Shard gives him and his nearby illusions additional movement and attack speed, but if TB is in meta or uses meta, the effect goes away. Now if we look at this fight again, at this point, you can see that Yatoro is insanely fast and he manages to run away from the CK and baits LGD into a bad position. Now imagine if he pops the meta and loses the movement speed. He would die instantly and LGD would probably win the game from that point, because this fight determines who gets Roshan. Every video takes a lot of effort, and I want to keep helping you guys by making quality content. If you are enjoying the video, please make sure to like the video as it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe. Now, back to the video. For his 5th item, Yatoro purchases the Nullifier. The biggest problem in the game for the TB is the Tinker, and Nullifier removes the defense matrix, which will stop Tinker from blinking away if he takes damage. No one in Yatoro's team can buy a Nullifier, so he has to buy it. Most of Yatoro's itemization is for the Tinker. After winning the fight and getting Aegis, Team Spirit looks to go high ground, but the problem is, Going high ground against A, Tinker, and Grim is extremely hard even with Aegis, but Yatoro has the ultimate solution for it. Team Spirit has Magnus in their team who can skewer people out. Instead of sending his main hero to hit high ground, Yatoro sends his illusions to do it. Yatoro itemized in a way that the illusion can tank up and do a lot of damage to the towers thanks to the butterfly and SNY. In order for LGD to get rid of the illusion, they have to use their spells, and if they use their spells, they will reveal their position, which gives Magnus an opening to skewer them out. So this is a really good strategy from Yatoro and Team Spirit to breach high ground, and eventually they catch Tinker like this and end up taking one side of LGD's base. For his 6th item, Yatoro gets the Swift Blink. As said before, he's itemizing to catch and kill the Tinker. Tinker is the biggest problem for the TB at the moment, and if he's dead, the fight is one-sided in favor of Yatoro. Since he has Nullifier, if he gets a jump on the Tinker with the Blink, the Tinker has no way of escaping. After this, Yatoro sees an illusion top and goes towards it. At the same time, he sees CK going towards it. Yatoro instantly uses Blink and steals it away from the CK, but as a result, puts himself in a position where LGD can jump him. Since Yatoro has Aegis, this isn't that big of an issue. In fact, Yatoro actually baited them into a bad position because Yatoro's team is standing right behind him and they have all the information they need. Yatoro gets a good sunder on the CK and the RP from Collapse seals the deal. The main takeaway from this fight is the fact that if CK got the illusion rune instead of the TB, things could have been different as CK's illusions would melt everyone. Other than that, notice how aggressively Yatoro is playing, which gives his team so much information to work with. Since 3 of LGD's heroes are dead, Team Spirit ends up taking another side of LGD's base. After this, Team Spirit resets and waits for the next Roshan where the deciding fight will happen. 5 minutes later, Collapse tries to jump on the Grimstroke, but LGD was ready for it, and the Reality Rift from the CK ends up stopping Collapse from skewering the Grimstroke away. They leash Magnus and Yatoro ends up being leashed with him. Since Yatoro got leashed and hexed, he had to pop BKB to survive the burst from LGD. Magnus bought back and got an RP on both CK and Tinker, but since Yatoro did not have BKB, he ended up dying. Yatoro then buys back as it is a crucial Roshan fight, but realizes that his TP is on cooldown. He refreshes his TP and BKB and rejoins the fight, but at this point, Magnus has died twice without buyback. He ends up killing the CK, but the CK instantly buys back as well. Even though Yatoro has both BKB and meta, he respects the fact that LGD has the upper hand without the Magnus alive. He retreats through the portal and lets LGD have the Aegis. At this point, LGD is coming back into the game, and it doesn't look that easy for Team Spirit. Since LGD has Aegis and Yatoro does not have buyback, he does not intend to fight them. His game plan changes to split pushing and prolonging the game till the Aegis expires. This happens for the next 5 minutes. Yatoro ends up selling the SNY to make a slot for the refresher. Since refresher can't cooldown if it's in the backpack, he needs to have a slot to use BKB twice. So selling the SNY at this point makes sense. After that, for his last item, he gets the Aghanim's Blessing. Now his build is complete. He can initiate by himself and burst on anyone with double fear and BKB thanks to the refresher. Shortly after Aegis has expired, Spirit looks to make a move outside of LGD's base. Yatoro uses his illusion to give vision to Magnus so he can skewer someone out. LGD ends up also being smoked and gets to jump on Shadow Demon. A fight breaks out, but Yatoro does not try to go on the Centaur or help the Shadow Demon. He keeps his patience as he understands that the main problem in the fight is the Tinker and Grimstroke, so he needs them to show in order to jump them. He waits patiently, and as soon as he sees Grim and Tinker TPing on top of him, he jumps frame perfectly on the Grim, catching him and Tinker both with his fear, and then as a result, kills them both. This sheer confidence and teamfight understanding allowed him to play like this. His item build complements how he wants to play so well, making it look like it's the perfect TB game. Grim ends up using his buyback. With his Dark Portrait and Centaur combo, they end up killing Yatoro anyway. 4 minutes later, Roshan is up and both teams are playing to get it. Grimstroke ends up getting caught and Yatoro uses everything to kill him as Grim does not have buyback, which means that Spirit gets to have Roshan for free. After getting Aegis, Yatoro ends up getting the Ex Machina as his tier 5 neutral item and sells the refresher. Since Yatoro only needs the refresher for double BKB, it's better to have an item that refreshes your items every 25 seconds rather than 180 seconds. Yatoro realizes that if he's going to use Ex Machina, he will have mana issues, so he buys a Scotty at 61 minutes. After that, Team Spirit looks to end the game. Yatoro uses X Mark to go high ground and try to take the enemy buildings. Not only does this allow him to go aggressively in, but it also paves the way for the Magnus to skewer someone out if LGD tries to go on Yatoro. They end up retreating after a bad encounter, but Larl and Yatoro cooked up another shred to get Megas. Yatoro bought Travels and used it on the bottom wave with X Mark to pressure the melee racks, but LGD ends up fortifying it. Yatoro then waits 14 seconds for the Ex Machina so that he can refresh his BKB and travels to secure the Megas with the combo. It ends up being a success and Spirit gets the Megas. 10 minutes later, with Aegis on Shadow Demon, Spirit looks to close out the game. Kunkka uses X Mark on Yatoro, who jumps in hopes of baiting LGD in. He goes in, uses Reflection on multiple heroes, which provides vision to the Magnus. As a result, Magnus ends up skewering both CK and Centaur out of the base, and they killed them both. 2 minutes later, Spirit ends up winning this game after a long haul. The key takeaway from Yatoro's gameplay is understanding that if you get countered, it does not mean that the game is over. There are multiple ways to overcome problems in this game, which is what makes this game the best game in the world. Yatoro's understanding of his matchups and heroes is incomparable, and a performance like this is what makes him the greatest player to play this game. If you liked this video, please subscribe and check out my Twitch stream. And if you want more personal advice, I also offer private coaching. You can read reviews from students who have gained hundreds or thousands of MMR in my Discord. VODs of these lessons can also be watched on my YouTube for only $1.99. Let me know what you think about the video in the feedback. Have a nice day and good luck with your games.